All right, hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna have to talk about Armored Core 6 because we got some news. We got some new gameplay footage finally about this game, and it's actual gameplay this time, not just a trailer. And it's really sick. There's a lot of good stuff that happened in that trailer, and I really want to talk about it. But as you can tell with the title of the video, this video is about, you know, the little things that let's say with this new gameplay footage that we got, it caused a little bit of conflict within you know, the fan base, what people think of the game and everything. Personally, I have to say before I start to say anything else that I am pretty new. I've watched a bunch of videos by now because ever since they revealed Armored Core 6 during the Game Awards, honestly, I've been pretty much, you know, charmed by the game. I wanted this will be my next favorite game easily. But I also want to talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they revealed in the footage, but there's also a lot of weird design decisions. And honestly, there's an overall lack of information when it comes to Armored Core 6 that is starting to become poisonous, and that's regarding like things like PvP and even more stuff about the PvE. And when you think about it, we only had 3 pieces of information when it comes to Armored Core 6. We had 3 pieces of information and 1,000 rumors. So it's not very good. It's not a very good ratio, especially because the game is coming out in like 2 months. So I just want to talk about what I think is great about Armored Core 6 so far, and what I think is kind of a bit, you know, problematic. So first of all, let's talk about the goods. So I think overall, one thing that really shined in the new footage that we've seen is the stagger system. I think the stagger mechanic in Armored Core 6 is really fascinating. I am super interested into seeing more about it. Especially there's that one part in the footage that I keep replaying over and over for myself, where you see this reverse joint leg staggering this squad leg, comboing his ass to death, and then the execution. It looks insane. It looks so damn good. I'm so into that kind of stuff. And when you think about it, a lot of people compare it a lot to things like Sekiro. Like they're like, oh my god, this is the same stagger system in Sekiro. Or they also compare this kind of stuff to Dark Souls as well. But to be honest with you, the way it works, honestly, and the way it rewards the player seems so different compared to those games that I'd rather not even call it, oh, it's like Sekiro, or oh, it's like Souls. I think it's very unique because I've never seen, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think in Sekiro or in Dark Souls you can combo an enemy that way, the way they did it. Like you have a kick, then you shoot, then you do dagger, melee dagger, and then you throw missiles, and then you fucking finish it with a charge, like rush down attack or something like that. It's fucking badass. This is like something that you see in games like Devil May Cry and stuff like that. It's really insane. So I wouldn't call it even close to be similar to something like Sekiro or Dark Souls, because in Sekiro you straight up just remove a health bar from an enemy with one move, and there's not a lot of decision making in that process, I think. So yeah, another thing that I think is super interesting with Armored Core 6 is the ability to fire multiple weapons at the same time. And honestly, it adds up to the amount of just straight up ideas you can get from, I don't know, the builds that you can make in a game like this. Like imagine if you can make a build that is straight up inefficient. Like you have a build that cannot move at all. The mobility is just trash, energy efficiency is just trash, but you can shoot multiple weapons. You can make fun builds because of things like that. They can easily become a bit more viable, not necessarily totally viable, but you can make like a weird, I don't know, a weird turret that just stands there and just shoots all the weapons at once. It's very interesting to me that they allow us to do things like that. So it adds a lot to the variety, and I think it also has a little bit of a dexterity challenge for the players. The other thing that I think is cool and that we've seen, it's a detail that we've actually seen in this footage, and it's the simplified damage types. So for example, in Armored Core 5 you have 3 damage types. I think it's kinetic, thermal, and chemical, something like that. And the thing is, in in that game, whenever you have a weapon and it's not the right type, like it's not the right weakness for an enemy, it's straight up ineffective. That's pretty bad. I think you had something similar in older IC games, but it wasn't as bad as it was in 5, and I think it's not very fun. And when you think about it, it's also kind of allowing more free-form customization. Armored Core Forenza, a lot of people always say that Armored Core Forenza is not exactly a game where you necessarily have to always switch your loadout and stuff like that, and it's kind of the same in this game. So you are allowed to just make loadouts just for fun. You are allowed to make them for fun instead of necessity. So I think that's a really cool thing to have, and it kind of makes the game fun for both like new players, casual players, and also long-time AC fans. You just go crazy with the customization. Go ahead and have your fun, basically, is what they're trying to do. So the last thing that I think is awesome in this footage is something that we actually don't see, sadly. I don't know why developers are like this, but we don't get to see the UI. And based on what specifically Fighting Cowboy and Varia, they talked about the UI of the game, and it seems incredibly interesting. I really wish they would allow us to see this UI, because it apparently has a ton of information, and it also shows a lot of things that are interesting, like the distance between you and the enemy that is locked on. And especially with things like scan mode, now you can see enemies through walls, lock onto them behind walls. I think that's great. But you also have a new information, which is the fact that enemies are unaware. So there's some kind of stealth gameplay going on in this game. There's a lot of nice things like that, and I really wish they could allow us to see the UI, man. Why are people like this with these presentations, never showing us the UI? Anyways, so that's pretty much it that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the good things about Armored Core 6, the things that are really exciting to me. Because now there are other things that, even as a new player, you have to understand, I'm very familiar with from now, especially the post Souls from Software, right? I'm very familiar with that one, and there's a lot of these weird design decisions that are kind of conflicting in my opinion, and I can understand why Armored Core fans are not so happy to see them in this game as well. And to be honest too, before I go into it too much in depth, I also want to say that a bigger problem is the fact that we lack so much information. The lack of information is actually what is causing all these things to, like, all these new design decisions to be very controversial for Armored Core fans as well. So overall, the first thing that I would like to talk about in this section is the high probability of the existence of a soul style lock on. This is honestly I would say a big feature that could exist. I don't think we have confirmation. Vadi talks about it, but I don't think even him got to totally confirm that it was a soul style lock on, because I actually don't think none of the influencers or content creators ever got to play the game. I think they were only allowed to see a full demo of this and not necessarily just touch the game necessarily. So we cannot totally confirm the existence of this soul style lock on. However, during the trailer, like the gameplay trailer and this footage as well, there's a very high chance that there is a soul style lock on, because it is very apparent when you see the player lock onto a target. It is very apparent that you have access to something similar to that. So the thing with the soul style lock on, I wouldn't call it an issue if I didn't know what Armored Core gameplay originally was like. But when you think about it, there's a lot of things that go away because of this soul style lock on. For example, the whole challenge of Armored Core is really to keep enemies into your lock-on box or straight up vision, or to be able to constantly keep track with an enemy's movement so you can still do damage to them. This is why I also say that the stagger system is very genius in this game, because if you have like a lock-on style that is like classic Armored Core or regular Armored Core lock-on, this is very interesting to have a stagger system that allows you to just straight up limit the mobility of an enemy, and it will allow you to get a bigger reward. And at the same time, if you are able to dodge the enemy's fire in general, you will have a great reward because they don't get to stagger you. You get to not take as much damage. But having a lock-on means that some builds will be more vulnerable to this kind of stuff. I think that's not a very good design decisions in my opinion, and it kind of conflicts with the new stagger system, which is great. So I'm not really a fan of that. The other thing too is that in this footage we've seen all the customization that the parts that you have access to for customization, and FCS still exists. FCS is actually, correct me if I'm wrong once again, but it's a part that is actually governing your lock-on capabilities. And I think it's pretty confusing that you have access to lock-on, but you also have FCS. It makes me think that maybe all they did with FCS is that it kind of dictates the range of your lock-on. But honestly, if that's the case, it's kind of lame too. I don't know. Overall, I think this lock-on system is kind of weird to be, as an addition to this game. But there are things that we do not know, because once again, like I said, we lack information, and this is also one of the biggest issue with Armored Core 6 so far. What we do not know is if the lock-on is actually a core mechanic, or if it's just a specific FCS that has lock-on capabilities with it. So if it's an FCS part, I think that would be actually fine, especially because when it comes to parts, they usually come at a cost in your customization. But if it's a core mechanic, it's pretty odd, because you would think the natural response to something so strong like a hard lock-on would most likely be a shield. But Armored Core 6 has shields that can also stagger, by the way. But those shields are not a core mechanic. A shield is just like a one of your weapons. Basically, it takes a weapon slot to add a shield, and it's one of the back weapons specifically. So whenever we think about a shield not being a core mechanic but a hard lock-on being a core mechanic, I think that's pretty weird, and it kind of ruins the customization a little bit. It makes it less satisfying, because now there are things that become mandatory to your loadout. It's more mandatory to have maybe a rifle and a shield at the same time. I'd rather have it being a part, to be honest. But regardless, the next thing that I want to talk about that I'm not really agreeing with in terms of the designs is the fact that there's actually an instant heal and you have access to mid-mission assembly. That is pretty weird. The ability to instant heal and have access to mid-mission assembly honestly makes me feel like it's really hard to lose a mission in this game. Kind of just ruins the immersion, which is kind of weird from Software, to be honest. I think they have been pretty good at tidying game mechanics to the world that they create. Having access to a mid-mission assembly, you are deployed into a mission in an enemy territory, but you have access to your garage. I think that's pretty strange. And I think you also have the ability to literally get out of a mission and then come back to the checkpoint of that mission. Having checkpoints in the middle of a mission in a mission-based game is really weird. And having mid-mission assembly is kind of conflicting with the simplified damage types as well. If you have simple damage types, then why do you even need a mid-mission assembly? Because you can always play the game with the same build regardless. You can heal, you have access to your, what is it called, assault boost that apparently doesn't consume that much energy. You have access to all that stuff. You know, maybe with a little bit of skill, it's not that bad, and it's already been confirmed that this game is not a super hard game. Like, the developers have already talked about it, so I'm not really sure what is the point of having all this stuff. I feel like it's kind of making the game a little bit less impactful, but regardless, again, things that we do not know, and it's important to mention that, is maybe it costs money. Who knows? Maybe it's the case. Another thing we do not know is actually the difficulty scaling on the missions, because the footage we've seen in this looks very simple. It seems like a very simple mission, but it could also very well be a first mission in the game, like a really early game mission. But maybe later in the game, you are now caught in situations where you need that healing. But again, the developers have mentioned it's not a hard game. However, there is one crucial information that could make up for every single thing, and that's hard mode. And in this game, maybe hard mode could take away your ability to do these things, these two things, to heal and to have access to mid-mission assembly. So that is a crucial part, once again, of info we do not have. And that's becoming pretty annoying, in my opinion. Yeah, and now that I think about it, wouldn't it be better for the repair kit to actually be attached to your checkpoints? So for example, let's say you go in front of a boss room, right? Maybe that's one of the checkpoints in the mission, or maybe there are multiple checkpoints in the mission before then even. But let's say you are in front of the boss room, right? You go into the boss room, you fight the boss baits your ass to fucking death, you die, and then you have a choice. Do you want to revive? Yes or no? If you say yes, it will consume one of your repair kits. I think it would be better for repair kits to actually function that way. Or even, say you go into the boss fight, right? Maybe you have a good run against the boss, but then the boss does something that is actually super cheap, right? Maybe the boss is at like 50% health. The second phase activation fucks you up. It's kind of bullshit. You didn't expect it. You take a ton of damage. Maybe you're like 1 HP. Do you want to use the repair kit or no? As a healing, now you have a choice. You can continue the fight to save the run, or you can leave. You can let yourself die to use a checkpoint, which will also consume one of your repair kits. So that way you keep the repair kit as a healing item, but it's also a choice to continue fights or to restart fresh from a point that wasn't good. So it will still consume a repair kit that way, but you have choices. I think it would be much better than what they are trying to do here. Even a game like Monster Hunter has like a limited amount of retries, and to make it more friendly for casual, I think it's better for the game to just have co-op. So that's it for all the weird things I wanted to talk about when it comes to the design of Armored Core 6. Overall, what I think of the game, I think it looks very cool. I'm still very excited for it, and as always, I like to be cautious with games that I'm excited for, even because I know things never go too well. I've been used to it, so that's why I don't really pre-order games. I didn't pre-order the game yet, and I don't think I will until we have more information on this. So overall, I think the game is nice regardless. The Stagger system and the UI, they seem incredibly fascinating to me. And this being my first AC game, honestly, I don't really have any romantic attachment to the franchise overall. I really want this franchise. I really want this game to be nice and to be a fun experience for me, because I like challenging games. I like to be able to lose in games. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun thing to mess around with customization, sit there, think for a while about what you do with your stuff. I think it's nice. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all so much for watching and during my rambling. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.